There's plenty of shitty mechanics out there, and I could show you one from every shop every day. Anyway, I was just told from a used car dealer that he's not making new cars. You asked me to look at a car, I got to tell you what's wrong with it. If you don't like that, then go back to the cheap guy who was fucking you over all the time. Right? Costing you money and fucking you over all the time. So anyway, on to another used car dealer called the cheap mechanics are. So I'm trying to figure out what is going on here. So do you see, can I get you the viewing pleasure here? So this is the drive shaft to the back of the car, and I'm going to try and get you right up in here. Do you see where behind the flange there's a rub mark? Can you see that, y'all? There we go. Let me get over here. This what makes me a better mechanic than the guys that you know and use. So I'm going to point to this. Do you see this rub mark right here? That rub mark is coming in contact with a recently installed rack and pinion. So for me, I'm like, all right, does it have bad motor mounts along with the wrong rack and pinion install? Because I just looked this up. There's 4 different rack and pinions. So I'm going to zoom in right here. So you can see right there, and I'm going to point again. Do you see the rack and pinion threaded nut, and then you see that 90 that goes down, and then how the tail shaft of the transfer case is coming in contact with the rack and pinion? So every time that the vehicle torques, the transfer case output shaft is grinding through the rack and pinion. But I got fluid from a rack and pinion install, and I was like just prying up on the rear transmission mount, and I was like, wow, I mean, there's some play in that. But even if I lifted it up higher than that, is that rear transmission mount really an inch shorter? And I was like, I got to question, who the fuck is working on these cars? New pads, new rotors, new sway bar links, new struts, new intake boot, new coil packs, new aftermarket sensors. And I said, Caleb, I really think they got the wrong rack and pinion in this car. You know why? Because the guy who installed it and road tested it didn't give 2 shits about his job. Then I was like, all right, well, the intake boot is installed, and that's new, and it's not even tight. And then I see a couple solenoids up here that appear to be newer, and I'm like, what is going on here? And then I was like, all right, let me look at the motor mount over here. You can see that motor mount's broke, so that just wears everything else out. But then I said, God damn, I think they got the wrong rack and pinion in this car. So there's an S, an SL, an SV to 8 of 11 is one part number. And then an LE to 811 is another part number. And then if you go down here, it gives you 2 more part numbers for the rack and pinion. So is there really 4 different rack and pinions for this car? Now, since I wasn't the dummy mechanic on the job who did this car, because quality checking your work, let alone checking what you're installing to make sure it's right, that's part of what goes on here. And I would tell you, I don't even know if my guys would have caught that. I mean, you may have. But typically when we put a rack in, we lay the old rack right next to the rack we're installing to make sure that we have the right stuff.
Center of the rack, and then I also do that when if I'm transferring tie rod ends to try to get it close enough.
But I'm saying in most cases when we do a job, I'm going to show you what we do.
Close enough so it's not.
If this is the old rack and pinion and this is the new rack and pinion, whatever position they pull that out in, we take the aftermarket rack and pinion or used rack and pinion. Yep. We make sure that we clock the rack and pinion steering shaft in the same exact position. We make sure that the tie rods are on. Like if we seen that there was a line here and there wasn't supposed to be a line there, then we know our problem.
Yep, they're different.
Right. And then if it was 2-wheel drive, I wouldn't make a big deal about it because we don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. But when it's all-wheel drive, you got to like say, this ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Somebody went the whole 9 yards, including a wheel alignment, and sent the car out. In a couple of days, it's going to grind right through that rack and pinion.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's all motor mount issues. You know, my gut tells me some installer put the wrong shit in the car.
A lot of that vibration is probably coming from the drive shaft contacting the
Transfer case
rack and
output
pinion.
shaft hitting
Yeah.
rack and pinion.
Yeah. A lot of the vibration is probably caused from that.
But that's what the cheap guy gets you. The cheap guy costs you more money and chasing your tail and spinning your tires than you just having a guy. And someone said that, well, maybe the customers don't want a good guy.
Well, that's
They don't want a good mechanic. And that blows my mind. Like, do you want a good doctor?
Yeah.
Because that's what me and Caleb are. We're the best when it comes to fixing cars. And I'm sure there's some other guys out there that feel the same exact way. But I could show you, look, here, every day that somebody got paid to do a shitty job.
Yeah.
Like if you would have drove that car, you're like, hey, Aunt, something's not right. And I'd be a little pissed off, right?
Yeah.
But at least we'd figure out like, hey, what's going on here? Let alone
Yeah.
put a rack and pinion in with bad motor mounts.
You'd much rather me do that than send it out and have it come back.
And then have it come back and then have to redo the job all again anyway.
Yep.
So I'm going to do a follow-up video on this because I don't think that that's the right rack and pinion in the car.